Hi everyone, welcome. Good to see you again, and welcome to our second new style of meeting together in a large group. It's great to have you with us. How are people finding the new environment? Hopefully everyone's on the private Facebook page now. That's called our MCC family, and hopefully you're finding that a really good way to stay across what's going on in each other's lives. So please keep on posting stuff up there. I haven't posted anything as yet. I'm still learning the rules and protocols of Facebook and having such a good time discovering all these friends that I didn't even know about before from overseas, people who I had no idea existed. It's so good to feel so much love from complete strangers who really want to be my friend. So Facebook's great. I've been a little bit overwhelmed, as you can tell, over the last couple of days with that. And get this, it turns out that on Facebook, you can actually get the app on your phone. I know, who would have thought you get Facebook on your phone?
Technology.
So that's my hot tip for the day. You can thank me later if you weren't aware of that already. So that's Facebook, both our public site but also the private MCC family site. Then there's these sessions. And I also hope that they're informative and that they're encouraging for you and perhaps even shareable, if that's a word, with any interested non-Christian friends and family. The first couple have taken a little while to put together, but now, assuming we go forward, it shouldn't be nearly as laborious now that we've got this kind of locked down. So that's our Facebook page, not site, Facebook page, and these Sunday morning clips and experiences. Both are good and useful. But both, I think, are still a long way off from real-time conversations where you can actually see each other. Neither Facebook or these sessions can offer you the old school luxury of having a deep and meaningful with one or two people in real time. They don't give you the buzz and the banter that you'd experience if you were sitting at some restaurant table with a whole lot of friends having a great meal together. You don't get that. So I would strongly suggest, if you haven't done so already, it'd be great to find a medium that you're comfortable with that will allow you to interact with at least one or two people on a weekly basis, face-to-face in real time. You may be familiar with FaceTime. That's a great start. As far as I know, that gives you the capacity to sit and talk with someone, at least one person. I'm not sure if it goes beyond that, one person on a screen. That's a great start. Other options, of course, include Zoom or Skype. I've been using Zoom a lot this week and have found it great. And I know that many of you guys have as well. You can get a free account online, which allows you to make unlimited one-on-one calls. On that same account, you can do group calls. So that's a face-to-face in real time with more than one person at a time for 40 minutes, I believe. And what some people have been doing is starting that off. And then when it comes to the 40 minutes, that's when they find it's a great time to take a toilet break or go get a hot drink, so they'll hang up and then they'll recommence and pick it back up again if they want to. I know that some of the small groups already have blazed ahead and they've already adapted to Zoom, which is fantastic. I know that Craft Coffee Chat have also taken on their Monday morning sessions together via Zoom. Now, so I'd be encouraging you all, again, regardless of whether it's Zoom, Skype or FaceTime, make sure that you're checking in, again, at least weekly with 2 or 3 people outside those who you're sharing a roof with these days. Prayer, confession, accountability, really specific encouragement, all these regular Christian, I suppose, disciplines or rituals that are critically important, they still have to take place, right? They've just got to take place somehow in this new format. And something like FaceTime or Zoom or Skype can help make that happen. Because again, you want to be using something that's a bit more suited to small numbers of people. The social media channels, the Facebook sites, they're fantastic for sharing information and what's going on in each other's lives, but they're not going to give you the kind of old school intimacy, if you like, that buzz and banter, that real-time conversation allows. So again, if you're not au fait with one of those platforms, please reach out. Just send us an email, make a comment. We can get someone who can talk to you via the phone, or who can share a screen with you and get you hooked up to one of those platforms. So please do. Now, looking beyond ourselves and how we look after each other, it's also a great time to be doing that face-to-face interaction with those outside the church. My guess would be that we all know people, we all have people in our lives who are either in self-imposed self-isolation or self-imposed quarantine. And they may live alone, for example. They may be removed from broader family. And they may just really be kind of scared and anxious with everything that's going on. I think a text message or an email will go some ways to help them and make them feel a bit more comfortable. But what about we take the initiative and we show them a bit more love by FaceTiming them or setting up a Zoom or Skype call. And again, seeing them face to face. Again, I think that if you've had a really good experience of church, which I'm aware not everyone has, it's just so easy to almost take for granted that everyone has this big supportive kind of safety net or network around them. But a lot of people don't. So it's a great time for us again to show that initiative, start to demonstrate some of the love of Christ by proactively reaching out, touching base with people, using these fantastic God-given technologies and making sure that they're getting some face-to-face, real-time interaction. So I'd be encouraging you to do that. Whilst we continue to do a great job looking after each other, let's not forget those outside of MCC. So give someone a Zoom call this week. That's my encouragement. Children's story. We wanted to let you know that after this service, if you like, finishes, so that near the end, as you'll see the last couple of pages come on with announcements and prayer points, they'll play for a couple of minutes. And then after that, very soon after that, we'll be showing a children's story. So if you've got kids or you're just interested, please hang around after this part of the online experience finishes and children's story will pop up. Secondly, we've had some feedback too about music. So at this stage, we're looking at a plan of shooting some music, probably Joel and Dave D playing together whilst maintaining appropriate social distances sometime soon. And again, we'll probably put those on at the end of these like 20, 25 minute kind of services. We'll also probably be sharing those via the Facebook page and people, if they want to, can sing along in the privacy of their own homes. And now that's it from me for now. So I'll hand over to Tim, who's going to be giving us this week's news. Thanks.
Hey guys, good to see you. Let's get to the news. So first off, we've got the news about the ditch. We have finally ditched the ditch at MCC. That's really good news. You might have seen some posts that Todd put out on Facebook to do with that, but this is going to present a huge opportunity for our building to be able to stretch out a little bit more. There's potential for some more substantial building works, but certainly the play area is going to be able to stretch out. So this is really good news, and a huge thanks to everyone that's been involved with that enormous earthworks project. Now we've got Joel's social distancing sessions. Now you might have seen the one that happened last Sunday. We've got 7 to 8 p.m. on Sundays that Joel's doing these performances, and this is going to be the closest that most of us are going to be able to get to watching a live gig together for a while.
7:30
apparently. You'll be able to watch it. You can watch it via YouTube. It's semi-interactive, which means that if you really want to make a request, then what you can do is you can request, Roxette, for example, if that happens to be your thing, because apparently it is for some of you guys. And Joel's just making it a fun time. It's a good chance for the people in the church to interact in a more casual setting. So it's really great to see Joel doing that. And fortunately, he's not a bad musician either. So money is suddenly tight for a lot of people and everyone's feeling it. But if you do want to do some good, and if you've got the capacity and the inclination, then Julie from Brookfield is starting to cook meals to give away to people in need this winter. So she needs chicken, she needs chunks of steak, anything like that is what's missing from her culinary equation at the moment. So if you're able to provide any of that sort of stuff, that's going to be really helpful. So yeah, if you'd like to donate some of those raw ingredients, or you'd like to help with actually cooking some of the meals as well, then please let us know. Now, if you're struggling at the moment and your struggle is in bureaucracy, then Rob has offered to help anyone out that's got those bureaucracy blues. If you've got to interact with Centrelink at the moment or some other large government organisation, Rob is more than happy to talk to you, to help you sign documents via the screen, obviously. Now, he's not ex-Centrelink, he can't fix things magically, but he's done a lot of time working for government bureaucracies, and he's learnt the second language that's required, the secret passwords and the unlock keys to get you to the finish line as quickly as possible. He's a great guy to have in your corner, so get in touch with him now. before he becomes famous for doing this and becomes a professional at it. If you need his number or his email, you can contact us directly, but I expect that you can probably reach out to him on Facebook if you have his contact details. So if you want your news shared in this format, or also alternatively shared at the end of the service on the text messages that appear afterwards, then please just let us know and we'll stick it in. This is the way that we're going to be able to share with each other about what's going on and the news to celebrate and the ways in which we can help each other out. So remember, this is on YouTube. It can probably be viewed by everybody, so we need to keep that in mind with all of the things that we share. Otherwise, of course, we have our private Facebook page that we can use to share things that are just really exclusively for the people within MCC. And now we're going to continue our chat with Matt series. This is an opportunity for people to get to know the members of MCC a bit better in the best way that we know how at the moment. But you'll see me a bit later on today for communion.
So, class.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming in and having a chat. I'd be really interested to know, because I think you're going to be fairly unusual in this regard, as in like length of time. How long have you been part of MCC for?
Before its conception.
There you go.
My boyfriend at the time, I think, was the treasurer of the steering committee. My sister's boyfriend was the secretary. So we were right in on it when the idea first came. I've had a few breaks in between for personal reasons, but basically it's been my church since I was about 18.
Well, I'd be really keen to know where you live, and also, I guess, who kind of like lives with you again in terms of animals, people in your new vicinity.
I live somewhere between Allen's Rivulet and the Pilverata Road, up in the hills there, north-east facing. It's absolutely gorgeous. My immediate neighbours, I suppose, are wallabies and possums and quolls that eat my chooks. Merrin lives on the property with me. She has a little hut down the way. So we support each other when we do things like chop our fingers with axes. Merrin! Yeah, she said, I think I better take you to the doctor. I said, no, I think a Steri-strip will do. She said, I'll take you to the doctor.
What does a kind of typical day look like for you now? And has that like changed much like already, or is it much the same as say 3 months ago? Or
it's basically the same as 3 months ago. I live a fairly isolated life at the moment because I live by myself. I have my prayer groups that I attend regularly. We did this morning on Zoom, which was, we're all learning how to use it. It was very good. It was, we worked well. And I see my family, and I work at the community garden. We're producing a lot of food, and as you let people know a while ago, we're giving baskets of food to people that are isolated. Yeah. So it's great.
It's great. It's a nice piece of providence.
It's God working.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
my life is basically the same as it was.
Yes, yeah. And that, and just in case people haven't picked up the connection, the community garden, Chester's Patch.
That's it, Chester's
Patch. Yeah,
Chester's
great.
Patch.
Yeah. Of which you were an instrumental founding member and part of. It'd be really good, I think, for people to know a little bit about how you came to faith. Again, that's something that most of us don't know about each other, don't often have the opportunity to ask.
I come from a Catholic family. I'm not Reformed. We've got a Catholic background. A couple of my great aunts, I think, were nuns. So, good Catholic family. Around probably the end of grade 8, beginning of grade 9, that's why I've got the tissues, God came to me in a dream. I woke up knowing he wanted me to do something. I didn't know what he wanted me to do, but I was still at peace with it. So for the next couple of days, I walked around in a very happy daze, and it sort of faded. Around that time, we had the big conventions in Hobart. It was the thing to do. So Leslie Prismal, Connolly at the time, invited Anna, who was my sister, who was in her class, to go to a convention. So we both went. It was very exciting because we didn't go out much. it was at the City Hall. We had never been to the City Hall. Been to the Town Hall, but never the City Hall. So we sat there, we sung the songs, Just As I Am, goodness knows how many verses. But anyway, Anna and I went up the front. And they led us around the back behind the curtains. And each of us had somebody to pray with us and talk to us. And it was just so familiar. I knew this place. And as Rosemary, who was my intercessor, was praying with me, and she asked me to pray, and she pressed my hand, and I knew this is what God had told me. Excuse me. So it was God that took us there. We were the first Christians in our family. We were the first God followers in our family. Although we'd been brought up as Catholic, Mum and Dad were both nominal. So God just picked us out of the blue to say, you're my children.
What are some pertinent things that we can pray for?
I've got 2 children that don't follow God, but I have given them to God several times. Just opening their eyes. So it's the 2 kids plus their partners plus their kids. That is heaviest on my heart. For me personally, it's just becoming a bit more au fait with computers, because I don't particularly like computers. I don't particularly like phones, but I'm going to have to talk to people on the phone a lot more often, because what is valuable is just sitting in a group and having a lot of just seeing how people are interacting and just being part of a group, which because I live alone, that's actually really important.
Thanks again for coming in, class. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Okay, God bless.
Nice to share.
Hey everyone, it's Tim here. It's great to have you all with us here this morning. We're going to finish up today with communion. Now, at some point, not everything is going to be about coronavirus, but that's not today. We are at the beginning of a significant moment in history, and not only do we not know how long it will be before things go back to normal, we also don't know what the new normal is going to look like. It's worth being mindful that there's already vast differences in the journey that the community members around us are taking through 2020. Some people's lives have barely been affected so far. Others are struggling with a new home and work and life arrangement. Others still are coming to grips with the loss of work or loss of an income. More broadly, some in Australia have lost loved ones. Wherever you are on your journey, it's a good time to be mindful that it's likely others aren't in the same headspace that you are, and that we need to practice a greater amount of humility and grace towards each other. Some of you know that over the past 10 years I've been working on an app and writing code for it in my spare time. Well, in the past week, that got sold to another company. Or should I say, it should have been sold because that process hasn't been smooth, and that's been frustrating for me. But the buyer is going through their own struggles. You know, they're probably trying to make sure that they can keep their business going and keep all of the employees. It's even possible that their family has been directly affected. My point is that I don't know their situation. So as much as I have an inclination to get frustrated or annoyed at them, what I've realized is that more than ever, we need to be able to practice grace and forgiveness. This morning I had a really hard time parking my car because the cars near me had parked so badly. You know, everyone loves getting angry at poorly parked cars, right? But I don't know the stories of the people who parked those cars. Maybe they were already at their wits' end with their children. Maybe their brain was in a haze because they just found out that they'd lost their job. Again, everybody's journey is rapidly changing. We need to be extra graceful and forgiving in these times. And if you're the one who's struggling, then you need to know that you can ask for help. And that's what your church is here for. A disproportionate number of people will be going through the toughest year of their life this year. And it's likely that soon people will be yearning for a time when this struggle is over, if they aren't there already. Now, as Christians, we already have a framework for thinking about this. Because even in the blissfully ignorant year of 2019, we would talk about how we lived in a broken world, and that we should place our faith in the restored world that God has promised us. But we don't know when that will be, as the famous verse from Jesus in Mark chapter 13, verse 32 says, "But concerning that day or that hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father." And our current situation, that same message applies. We don't know when the end of this will be, or what the journey looks like, or even what things will be like when we get there. But God does. And we need to have faith in his powers of restoration. An end to the coronavirus does not mean an end to suffering on earth. That's far from it. So in that way, our sights haven't shifted because we have faith in the ultimate restoration, no matter the suffering that we witness or that we endure. Jesus may have spoken about the end times, but the sacrifice of his life for our sins is what we remember here in communion. And that good news is a bright beacon that we can choose to carry with us every day to help us through these struggles. So now I'm going to grab the bread and the wine and we'll participate in communion together. Someone will pray and we'll drink the cups together.
Dear God, we thank you again for your sacrifice, for your love, for your work within us to change us to be more like you. And I pray that together we would focus on you today and going forward. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Hey everyone, I'm not sure about you, but I'm finding the transition from doing life, if you like, in the regular old school way of things, the transition from that to doing life in this new format and context, it's not without its challenges. Online mediums can make communication ambiguous and kind of complex. You may not see faces, and then even if you do, like, haven't you found it so easy to talk over the top of each other when you're online? Even Zooming, I found over the last week, or Skype maybe. I found it really easy just to overthink it and worry about it. So I've even found myself asking like the stupid, almost inane question, who hangs up first here on this Zoom call? It was hard enough on the phone, but now I can literally see like the person in front of me start to reach over and down and push the button off. And I find that a little bit disconcerting. I think, how long should I pause for? Should I push the button first? It's really kind of thrown me, you know? And to add to that, I've got a relatively small laptop screen. You may be able to see here. It's only, I think, like 11 inches or something. Plus, I'm over 40. So it's actually really hard for me to distinguish between your happy emoji face and your grimace emoji face sometimes as well. And then moving up a level, you may find yourself disagreeing with someone else's interpretation of what is appropriate social distancing, or how they measure the risk involved, the personal risk and the risk to you these days, what's involved too. You may even find yourself starting to think about categories like deserving poor and undeserving poor when it comes to government subsidies, bailout packages, and various stimulus deals. And in the big picture, I've already heard some commentators say that one of the results of this, when we get to the other end, is that borders are probably going to become harder, if you like. Countries' politics will probably lean towards being more and more nationalistic. People are generally going to have maybe less time, less tolerance for regular social justice related issues. People aren't going to have so much sympathy for people who are seeking asylum, for immigrants or refugees or any of that kind of stuff. The risk is we're all going to get a little bit more tribal, if you like, and just be concerned with looking after me and mine. Now, again, no one knows how it's all going to play out, so this is still all conjecture. But perhaps, very likely perhaps, we've seen the end of the golden era of globalization. I think that regardless, once you put all that stuff together, you've got a picture like this. Whether it's the friend that you're zooming in with and he's starting to get frustrated because they're always kind of cutting you off in the conversation, or whether it's the stranger seeking asylum to your country that you don't really have the same level of perhaps empathy for because you just haven't got the headspace anymore. The bottom line is that it's easy for misunderstandings and frustration to creep in and to maybe increase and go up, whilst at the same time your patience tank may start to be running on empty a little bit, maybe starting to run low. That's certainly how I've even started to feel in myself over the last week. I found some of those feelings start to creep in. Now, if that's true, love, acceptance, and forgiveness, those kind of trusty, usually almost like Christian cliches, are more likely to be more valuable than ever right now. Now, so please hear me. I'm certainly not wanting to suggest that we've only seen examples of people starting to behave badly over the last couple of weeks. That's certainly not true. People inside the church, outside the church, there's been some sterling examples of a crisis like this bringing out the best in people. So I'm not trying to paint an entirely dark picture of human nature or say that like they're all going to hell in a handbasket. I'm not saying that. What I am suggesting is that if my experience and what I've kind of garnered from those around me is, I think it's going to be a little bit harder as time goes on. And again, if this current way of doing life continues for an undetermined amount of time, it's going to be hard to hold on to the virtues of love, acceptance, and forgiveness. So that's what I was kind of keen to talk about a little now. So these are just a couple of quick thoughts. I just said that again. So just a couple of quick thoughts on love. And this is again mostly derived from this book, Love, Acceptance, and Forgiveness. The first thing is to show how important it is that we love each other right now. And that's particularly, or starting off with our fellow Christians, people who make up the church. So 1 John 3:14, as you're probably aware, says that we know that we have passed from death to life because we love our brothers. Anyone who does not love remains in death. Anyone who does not love remains in death. So how do I know that I've passed from death to life, that I'm a true follower of Jesus, that I've got the Holy Spirit in me, that I'm not spiritually dead? According to that passage from 1 John, I can't point towards how much theology I know. I can't even fall back on how many Bible verses have I memorized, can I recite by heart. I can't even rely on supernatural experiences. I can't say, well, I know that I'm a child of God because God speaks to me in the first person, as valuable and as special as that may be. I can't fall back on, I know that I've got God's Spirit in me because I've spoken in tongues on many occasions. Again, not wanting to downplay or degrade that. This passage from 1 John again speaks of a different kind of evidence or primary proof of being dwelt by God's Holy Spirit. And the one that is being offered, the proof that is being offered, is largely observable. It's not esoteric. Other people can see it. That's the first thing. The second thing is that it's other people directed. It's not a private experience between myself and God. It's not even a kind of subjective experience or conviction between myself and my ego. So that's the first thing. Secondly, this love that we read about in 1 John is first and foremost action-based. And the go-to example of this being action-based, of love being primarily action-based, is again from God. So John 3:16 famously says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son." For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. For God, this love wasn't demonstrated or exemplified by a good intention. It wasn't communicated by a warm feeling, by just a warm feeling. Instead, this love was made manifest by an action, again, an observable action. And not just a one-off action, but a sequence, a series of actions that took place all over the life of Christ and were carried out for people indiscriminately. There was no thought in God's head of weighing up between those who deserved to be the recipients of this action-based love and those who didn't. That didn't even come into the equation. So that model of love, I believe, is the one that we should be trying to emulate now. Love that is action-oriented and directed towards other people's good. Of course, I know there are a heap of qualifications attached to this. Feelings, of course, do matter. Jesus, we read about, felt compassion for the crowds. Jesus wept at the death of Lazarus. Paul talks in 1 Corinthians, perhaps the most famous passage on love, and says that you can do this and you can do that, but if you don't do it with love, then it's lacking, it's false. So of course, feelings have a place when it comes to love. But that's different and should be distinguished from saying that feelings are necessary or are the starter of love. This is different. But with those qualifications, this week, I'll be encouraging us all to proactively push against that frustration and impatience that we may be starting to feel by loving someone actively in this way. So call it, if you like, a kind of preemptive attack. If you're at all worried about misunderstanding, impatience starting to creep in, and again, that's something that I've been wrestling with a little bit over the past week, instead, get on the front foot and let's ask, who in my life is God calling me to proactively love? What can I do to help them? And maybe make it more concrete by asking, God, just give me one person. Who's one person who you directed me to love this week in a very, very concrete, in an action-based way that is going to be oriented towards their good? That's the first thing. The second thing is have some compassion for those around you as well as yourself. We read in Matthew chapter 9, verse 36. So this is the account of Christ. So Jesus, he looks at the crowds and it says he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Jesus looked at the crowds, had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. That's a really good reminder for me not to take a lot of the stuff that's coming in personally. Let's be mindful of the bigger picture and context. Everyone I know, myself included, is feeling some degree of stress. And I think that's inevitable. And that's regardless of how much toilet paper and canned fruit you may have stashed and put away and stockpiled at the moment. Everyone is still wearing some of the kind of larger environment and the effects of that. So again, this week, who are you going to practically love this week? Again, ask God to give you one person in mind, who's someone in my life who I can proactively love. And even if you've got to fake the feeling till you make it, if you like, still think, pray and ask, God, who are you calling me to love in a very practical way this week? And secondly, let's have some compassion, both for ourselves and also for each other. Let's realize that we're all going through this together. People, myself included, aren't going to kind of act or respond, in my case, a typical Matt way. So let's be like Jesus and instead realize that right now we're all probably feeling a little bit harassed. We're probably to some degree feeling a little bit more helpless than usual. So let's be compassionate to each other and also to ourselves. Let me end with that encouragement. Now, please stick around for announcements. So again, at the end of the clip, you'll see a couple of screens come up and they're going to have prayer points. They're going to have some more announcements they'll play for a little while. And after that, if you'd like to, please hang around for the children's story too, which will be straight after that. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll see you at the same time next week. Thanks.